Hey y'all, welcome back to AMW Adventures in Gear, and today we're going to go through some of the Snowpocalypse of 2021 and how us Texans fared. So please like, subscribe, and this video is going to be more of a podcast style ramble, so if you're not into that, well, don't watch it, or put your headphones on, go about your day, listen to my voice, or watch me if you like my face. Stay tuned. So this video, we wanted to go through and talk about the Snowpocalypse of 2021 here in Texas. And the reason I want to talk about that is, as you guys have joined me through my videos, you've seen some of my Jeep videos and the EDC videos that we're doing, and you probably now have realized that I try to be more a prepper, try to get prepared for any type of situation. Now, definitely not one of those prepper mentality where we think the world's going to end and we have to have 10,000 rounds of ammunition and 500 meals, to last us for the rest of our lives or anything like that. This is more for everyday, like suburban type of people that might not know what to prepare for. So I want to talk through this video and go through basically what happened here, the events that happened, what went right, what went wrong, and what we could do better, I could do better as a prepper mindset, and to prepare for any type of grid down situation, because some people think that grid down or a disaster means that the world is going to end and you're not going to have, it never will go back to normal. But more often than not, it could be a winter storm that comes through that knocks out power for 2 days and you don't have a generator and your food spoils, or a hurricane that floods you and you can't go get basic supplies, everybody runs out of gas, you have to escape your house, you're on the road for 24 hours because traffic's so bad. Those are real scenarios that have happened, we've experienced. And I'm sure wherever you're looking at, you probably experienced some sort of natural disaster as well. So let's get into it. So I wanted to first start out with what the recap of the events were. So we'll start with the warnings beforehand. So we kind of knew about 3 weeks beforehand that we're going to get some sort of cold snap. But the temperatures kept going up and down. What the predictions were, the precipitation predictions went from anywhere from just normal rain to snow to a combination to everything around the sun. It went up and down on percentage wise. And if you follow places like if you live in Texas, you follow something called Space City Weather. They fully admit that we just don't have the weather models here and the know-how here in Texas to accurately predict winter storms. Regardless of all that, the temperatures were pretty close to what they actually were, and we knew there was going to be some sort of precipitation, so we'll go through what we prepared for in that regard here in a little bit. During the storm, we thought we were going to be alright, and we were going to have power, because we knew that we were going to get maybe like a power blip or something, because that usually happens in a winter storm. We've had that in the past, but we didn't think we were going to lose power for more than a couple hours. Well, we lost power for about 48 hours or 40 hours, somewhere around there. Definitely something we didn't expect, and we were not prepared for it. Some things that not necessarily we experienced, but close family of ours experienced, was they ran out of water, had no way to flush toilets, had no clean water to drink, and they were without water for about a week and getting pretty desperate on trying to find water. Also, Texas houses are not built for the cold, and so we saw a single-digit cold in our water pipes for a lot of houses. They're up in the attic, non-insulated, and so they're very susceptible to freezing. And so luckily we didn't have any broken pipes, but we knew people that did, and something to prepare for. I should go back and say that we did have one broken pipe, but it was outside in our sprinkler system, and that was an easy fix, but we weren't prepared for it, and so I'll go through that here too. And when the power went out, the cell towers went out. So we had zero communication, zero internet. So we had luckily we had a ham radio, which I'll touch on here a little bit, to get updates and to see what was going on. But besides that, we had no communication to the outside world. And so that's something you don't think about in today's world. You think you're always going to have cell service, but that's the first thing to go down. And time again, we've noticed that. And so back on the preparation, you can't always rely on your government to prepare for any type of natural disaster, or your local government or state government, whatever. Here, Texas has its own power grid, and despite what your debate is between whether it was renewable energy or gas that was the failure, in reality it was a failure everywhere. Windmills did freeze because they weren't prepared for. Gas plants were not able to keep up with demand. Actually, a nuclear plant in the southeast shut down for a time because it faulted because of how cold it was. And so the energy portfolio here in Texas as a whole, we're not prepared for this type of weather, and that was a failure in the government. And so because of that, they went through rolling blackouts, and in our case they just turned us off completely for 2 days. And so that's something you got to know, and something we didn't even think that we were going to experience. So that was, luckily we can learn from it, but a lot of people had a lot of issues with it. So what do we do right? Well, when we started this, we knew that there was a storm coming, so my wife and I, we went to the grocery store, got about a week and a half's worth of food, stuff that we knew that we could whip up really easily, that we could cook on the stove. We didn't need anything with electricity, just in case, we never know. So we made sure that we had that. We knew that we probably weren't going to be able to leave the house for at least 2 or 3 days. Maybe more, or we thought that at least, and so we prepared to have home cooked meals, not rely on the outside world. We got another case of water bottles, just to make sure that we had something, but we weren't really expecting no water, so we didn't really stock up on that. We had, I will link my EDC videos about my backpack and my personal, and I'll show you, and so you guys can get an idea of what we had, some of the stuff we had available. We had flashlights, we had power banks. We keep that around the house, just just in case, whether you're traveling or wherever. It's nice to have those type of things, but we didn't have as much as we wanted, and we'll get to that. In any type of natural disaster scenario, here we're used to hurricanes, and hurricanes can breed desperate people whenever they weren't prepared for it, and they go try finding supplies and stuff like that. So I take home defense very seriously. So our home defense was taken care of, as well as our alarm system and our camera system. We made sure that we're all working and we're prepared for that, and we have several different levels of home security, so I wasn't too worried about that. That one was taken care of. We made sure that our cars were full of gas. There's something we learned from the hurricane side of the season, is that the first thing to go when a hurricane comes is fuel. Fuel and water are the first things to be sold out. And so we made sure that we had our cars full. I had my gas cans full in the garage, just so in case, you never know. And we actually did experience fuel after the fact here running out, because people were running their generators, and you can get fuel anywhere. So that was a good thing to have. With both of our cars and our fuel, we probably had about, I'd say about 50 to 60 gallons of gasoline, so if we needed to go somewhere, we were good. Also, I just am a ham radio enthusiast. If you've watched my channel, you've seen my ham radio install video on my Jeep. I also have a handheld that I keep in the house or take with me in case I need to talk to someone on the trail while I'm guiding them or something. And so this is actually pretty invaluable when we had the cell towers go down. We were able to listen to the FM radio, we were able to listen to the NOAA radio, and then the amateur radio emergency services in our area was providing updates, and we were able to report if we saw something or if anybody needed anything, because people couldn't even around our neighborhood ask if they needed help. And so people going around their neighborhoods seeing what they needed could communicate that to the emergency services. So this was also very important. So that's what we did right. We also, a benefit of a cold snap was when the power did go out, we could put all our food in a cooler and put it outside and it stayed cold and fresh. But not something that can always happen in a hurricane season, of course. And so a lot of this stuff we learned the hard way. And it benefited that it was a cold snap, because if it wasn't a cold snap, we would have lost food. We would have been in a much dire situation. Definitely something to consider on that. Something to note before we move on to what we could do better in some of our failures is that maybe if you don't live in Texas, or you don't live in the South and you're up north, you probably have a fireplace of some sort of a different type of heating system. Something that you should be aware of is that a lot of these new houses, especially in Southeast Texas, you can't get a fireplace, or it's a lot extra money to get a fireplace. Luckily, we chose to get that because we like the aesthetic. We like sitting next to a fireplace on a cold morning or cold night. Luckily, it came in handy. But a lot of houses don't have that, so there was a lot of situations where people were actually burning their own furniture to stay warm because they didn't have any other external heat source. So we had that, so we were prepared for that. We knew that. But if you don't have that type of source, find one. Find a heat source, some sort of like a tent heater or something like that would have been perfect. That's some people don't know that. And in addition to that, our particular fireplace, luckily we knew this, was when the power goes out, you can't light the fireplace unless you have D batteries. And so you need to actually put D batteries in it and flip the switch, and once you take those batteries out, the fireplace dies. You can't turn on the gas and light it with a lighter like you used to be able to, or in some houses you can. So something to really take into account whenever you go through your emergency process, or you make your plan. Check that out. If you're in a cold climate, check it out. Or every season, make sure for the winter, make sure you have everything you need for the warmth. And when hurricane season when it comes, which we're approaching, make sure that your supplies for hurricane season are taken care of, whether it be an escape plan or a hunker down plan, or whatever it is. Make sure it's ready. Okay, so moving on to the failures on our part. So I won't say failures, just miscalculations is probably a better word for it. So we didn't expect the water or the power to go out. So we had no real generator source. We don't have solar. We don't have any type of house generator or even a portable generator, and that's something we've never really needed. Even in my experience, we've been through probably about 4 or 5 hurricanes or so. They've been direct hit or indirect hit, knocked out power to a lot of people, but we've always been fortunate that we've never had power out for more than a couple hours. So we never really had to worry about a generator. Well, this winter storm kind of told us that, hey, look, some people do get power out for a long time. You might be the next one. And so we're looking at a generator. So the 3 options we're looking at are a portable generator, a solar and battery powered option, which is the most expensive and probably the one that we're not going to go with, and then a full house generator that runs off natural gas. Each one of those 3 do have their pros and cons, and if you're interested, I'll make a video going through that research process of what I ultimately picked for home prep. Which reminds me, that's probably a good video to do some home prep once we get everything going. So yeah, no generation, no power generation, and what that means is we couldn't run our fridge. Well, like I said before, luckily we put stuff outside and kept it cool, but in hurricane season we can't do that. So that's one of our first purchases we're going to be making, is a generator for that type of scenario, to keep fridge running, run a small window air conditioner unit in the summer if we need to. There's a lot of options you can do with that. The next thing is we had a sprinkler system, our backflow in our sprinkler system cracked. This was, we wrapped it, we did everything we could, but the water still froze, and so we couldn't, we had to call someone out to fix it, because when we finally realized it, all the hardware stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, they were already picked clean of all the plumbing supplies. So something we could have prepared for is it's always good to have anyway is emergency repair kits. A little bit of a repair kit for a broke, busted pipe, a repair kit for a backflow on your sprinkler system. Those can go a long way from saving you money and from changing a major issue, or changing from a minor issue or major issue to a minor issue. So that's something we'll be purchasing, just some basic home repair parts, if you will. We have tools, but we didn't have the parts especially for some of this stuff in the cold. So that's something we got to be aware of. Something we did not expect is a water issue. Now, you do expect that a little bit in a hurricane type scenario, because when it floods, it gets into the water system and that floods into the mud and you get bad water and you can't drink it. And so we're more prepared for it in that. But cold weather, we didn't even think that our mud or our municipal utility districts would fail. In some cases, up to a week or even 2 weeks to this point. Some people still don't have clean water. And so something we did not do, and now we will do, is purchasing some clean water storage tanks, 5-gallon storage tanks that we could fill up drinkable water in those to prepare, and then use the bathtub fill all of our bathtubs up to use for flushing toilets. And that would have saved most of these people. If they just did those basic things, they would have had enough water supply to last them for a while. On another note, with water comes hygiene. And so what we don't have is enough wipes or personal hygiene, alternative hygiene equipment. So, or I say equipment, little wipes and stuff like that. So we're going to pick up some of that for our hurricane kit and for whenever we have here. So I mentioned a hurricane kit. We do have a kit for emergency purposes that is full of non-perishable foods, or foods that won't perish for at least a couple years. That's easy to make. You can make it all on a small Coleman stove. You can heat them up. You can eat them cold if you had to, and a lot of this stuff are not hot. But it is limited. We only put it together for like 3 days. And so maybe what we need to do is, some people are without power or water for up to a week, so we need to rethink a little bit how we pack that hurricane, and maybe putting in some of those freeze-dried, long-lasting food supplies or some other things, so that we are, in the worst case scenario, we run out of gas for a generator, we don't have power, we can still make food to feed our family and our pups, our 2 dogs. So we're going to go back to what we did right, and some things to consider is, you may not know this, even during, so let's say you thought you were prepared, you have a fridge full of food, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you thought that the grocery stores wouldn't be empty. And in this particular case, it was interesting because the day before the storm, the grocery stores were full. And so you could really go grocery shop for anything you wanted, go to the restaurant, whatever you wanted to do. But come about Wednesday of the storm, so the storm happened Valentine's Day, and everything was starting to get back to somewhat normal by Friday or Saturday, with some exceptions. Even through Saturday, grocery stores were completely empty. Even Sunday, and I think just now this week, they're now fully stocked, but grocery stores were basically empty. Restaurants were closed because they couldn't get shipments. And so you got to plan for, and that's why we went grocery shopping, but you have to plan for the fact that, the food beforehand might have been there, but even after the storm is long gone, you might not even be able to get the supplies you need. So that's that after effect that a lot of people might not know about. And so if you're like, hey, I have enough food and enough ramen in the fridge or enough ramen in the pantry for a couple days, I'll be fine. You might want to rethink that a little bit and get some more ramen or get some other supplies, or just prepare before the storm so that you're going to be good even those subsequent days, because the disaster doesn't really end for at least a week or 2, even after the storm's gone. So just something to be considerate about. So some other things to consider is, I know I mentioned the generator beforehand. If we go the portable generator route, most likely we'll go with something like a Jackery or Goal Zero battery box as well, so that we can power the refrigerator or AC unit, you put less load on that system. And honestly, there's ways you can actually put that generator and connect it to your electrical box, so you don't need to run a bunch of cords in your house. You just connect it to your electrical box, plug that in, flip the breakers you need. But in addition, that Goal Zero or Jackery will help us with our personal phones or laptop, or any this batteries for charging for communications equipment, or if you have a CPAP, that'd be good, so that you don't have to run it all night. You can still keep your Goal Zero next to your bed. When I say run all night, the generator, you can keep the Goal Zero next to your bed, run your CPAP machine, or if you need an oxygen machine or anything like that, will also be a help. And it'll keep the load down on your generator, so your generator will last longer, and you can use it for vital supplies like with your food, or heat, or air conditioning, or any type of life-saving medical equipment. So that's also something to be aware of. Something we did right was flashlights, but where we were lacking is flashlights or lanterns, camping lanterns that could fill up an entire room, that would last longer, that were also rechargeable by solar, because batteries do run out. And so we're going to be getting some of those. Additionally, for the cold weather, is a Mylar blanket. So I don't know if you're not familiar with Mylar, I'll add some links below to some of this stuff. But Mylar does not insulate, and so it does not insulate your body, but it does reflect heat. It reflects 100% of the heat, or a high percentage of the heat. So what you could do is, if you had a fireplace, you could put up a Mylar wall behind you, set up a bed in front of your fireplace, and then you could have all that heat reflected back on you, and then you would stay warm. So that's something to consider. So we'll be picking up some of those. They're really small. You can throw them in a box or a bag or whatever, and not have to worry about it. Something else that would have helped is, while this was good for communications, my vehicle has additional capability in the ham radio to do what's called APRS, which is basically just a GPS system with messaging to help with emergency services. We were in a good position, so I was getting into using amateur radio emergency services to report incidents, and to get updates, and to report to our family, what was going on, because we could get the reports and they couldn't. So we just wanted to make sure. We did have to go help my sister-in-law, because she was in a situation where she had no water, no power, so we made sure that we went and got her. And ham radio was good. It was a huge use for that, because we didn't even know what the status of the roads were. So it has its perks and purposes, and the APRS would have just helped that go to the next level. So the reason I wanted to do this video is because hurricane season is coming up, and I know that people are rearing from what happened the past week, and are maybe looking for solutions. This was, honestly, for us, we were very fortunate. A lot of people weren't. We were very fortunate to know that this was kind of like a test run for a true hurricane event, meaning that we still could keep our food cold. We didn't have any food spoil. Our pipes didn't burst. We didn't lose water. But so we could really evaluate what we didn't do right. And now the hurricane season coming up, that has its own unforgiveness, things that that are unforgiving. And so we can't set our food out and keep it cold during a hurricane, or if it floods, or in any type of situation in the summer. So this allows us to really evaluate how we want to go through and prep, if you will. Remember, prepping isn't about the apocalypse. It's about that grid down when you can't feed your family for a couple days, or you can't feed, if you have a new baby or whatever it is, you can't feed that baby, or you have a sibling or a family member or somebody that needs a life-saving medical device that has to be plugged in. Prepping just prepares for those scenarios that might come, so that you can minimize loss and can minimize damage to your house and to your family. So I hope that you guys join us along as you follow us as we go through this process of revamping a lot of what we do and what we did, and that you might learn something along the way. Or if you have comments, and you think I've done something wrong or you don't agree, let me know. I'd be more than happy to take feedback, and maybe I've missed something, and I'm always open to something that's going to help save my family or protect us. So I really appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you for watching AMW Adventures in Gear. Please like, subscribe, comment, contact us. I'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram, and until next time.